the ultimate guide to embedding quotes in analytical writing. In this lesson, we will focus on the skills required so that students can achieve. Select appropriate quotations for analytical writing through considering how techniques and conventions produce meaning. Effectively embed direct quotes from a studied text into the context of their own analytical sentence. So, let's see examples for better understanding. When you write an analytical essay, you will need to include direct quotes from your studied text as evidence to receive a better mark than if you just summarized examples. Let's look at the 4 examples to the right and discuss which ones are correct ways of embedding quotes and which are incorrect. You might also want to consider which seem most eloquent. First, Olivia's neat appearance reflects her attention to detail as she is described as dressed sharp with not a hair out of place. Second, we realize that Olivia and Sacha are more alike than they think. For example, I never realized she took the same bus as me. Third, we see this through the following description. I'd always thought she was really stuck up, but I was starting to realize how wrong I was. And fourth, as she entered the classroom, everyone went silent. This quote shows that there is conflict at the school. Answers. Examples 1, 2 and 3 are all technically correct. Example 1 seems the most eloquent as the quotes are short and the sentence flows smoothly. Examples 2 and 3 are still grammatically correct. The quotes are integrated, but they don't flow quite as smoothly as the first example. Example 4 has incorrect punctuation. The quote is not embedded. It also uses incorrect terminology referring to the character's dialogue as a quote. We use this word in English class, but you should always try to be more specific when essay writing, like Olivia's neat appearance reflects her attention to detail as she is described as dressed sharp with not a hair out of place. We realize that Olivia and Sacha are more alike than they think. For example, I never realized she took the same bus as me. We see this through the following description. I'd always thought she was really stuck up, but I was starting to realize how wrong I was. And as she entered the classroom, everyone went silent. This quote shows that there is conflict at the school. Selecting quotations. First, we need to consider how to plan effectively by selecting the best examples for analyzing. Selecting quotations. Analytical writing can be daunting, especially when you have read or viewed a big text such as a novel or film and you don't know where to begin. It's always recommended to let your ideas lead your discussion, so starting with the response question, identifying the key concepts you will need to address, and loosely planning your ideas or arguments is the best place to start. After that, it's time to select appropriate examples, including direct quotations, wherever possible. Consider the following steps when planning. Choose an appropriate example. Comment us below with your answers. Step 1. When choosing a quotation, keep in mind that you want it to contribute to your overall argument, thesis statement, or subpoints, not steer your response in a different direction, so ensure that it effectively illustrates your argument. Your chosen quotation will need to flow logically and grammatically within your essay. To ensure this, make sure that you use a quotation of an appropriate length. The shorter the quote, the easier it should be to integrate. Longer quotes can sometimes disrupt the flow of your essay. Consider elements of construction. Step 2. Depending on the specifications of the essay question and your text type, you will need to discuss elements of construction. These might include narrative conventions, e.g. characterization, setting, plot structure, point of view, etc. Structural features, e.g. foreshadowing, flashback, prologue or epilogue, etc. Language features, e.g. descriptive language, imagery, figurative language, lexical choice and connotation, etc. Rhetorical devices, e.g. repetition, direct address, inclusive language, tricolon, etc. Analyze how the quote conveys meaning. Step 3. The goal of summarizing is to retell a story or situation in different words. Analysis, on the other hand, requires you to break down the text and examine its parts carefully in order to reach its meaning. To do this, identify keywords or phrases within the quotation that lead you to your ideas or interpretation and discuss the choice the author has made in utilizing various techniques or conventions to provide your own commentary on their effect. Embedding quotations. Next, it's time to learn how to embed these quotations smoothly into analytical sentences. Quotations should never stand alone. They should always be embedded into your sentence. There are multiple ways to do this, but there are only two types of punctuation marks that are used to introduce quotations, the comma and the colon. On the following slides, we will outline 4 options for embedding quotes. It's important to avoid relying too much on just one method and trying instead to use a variety of different ones so your writing doesn't sound repetitive. Introduce the quote with a complete sentence and a colon. Option 1. If you use a complete sentence to introduce a quotation, you need a colon after the sentence. E.g., the author ends the novel with a metaphor, holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting your enemy to die. Use an introductory phrase, separated from the quote with a comma. Option 2. If your introductory phrase ends with a verb such as says, states, thinks, believes, questions, etc., you need a comma to separate your own words from the quotation. E.g., the author suggests the consequences of not standing up for ourselves when he says, we end up suffering in silence. Make the quote a part of your sentence without any punctuation between by using the word that. Option 3. When you begin a sentence with a phrase such as the author writes, you can either add a comma after the word writes, e.g., the author writes, quote, or you can add the word that with no comma, e.g., the author writes that quote, e.g., the author argues that we should all speak up when we see others getting bullied. Use short quotes as part of your own sentence. Option 4. When you use short quotes as part of your own sentence, you don't need any special punctuation. You should punctuate the sentence just as you would if the words were your own. E.g., although the author thought about all the kids around the world who were feeling the same as him, he knew it was his duty to speak up about schoolyard bullying. Tips and tricks. There are a couple of pieces of helpful advice that might help you on your analytical writing journey. A simple method. If you get stuck, use this method to practice embedding short quotes into the center of your sentence and framing them with your own words on either side. First, start the sentence with your own words to contextualize the quote, the reference to his status as both and. To nd. Insert direct quotes in the center of the sentence, outcast and ethnic implies that. Third, finish the sentence using your own words, he felt out of place and racially discriminated against at school. He says or she says. Try not to get stuck saying he says she says throughout the whole essay. Vary your language so your writing doesn't sound repetitive by using a variety of verbs. E.g., the author states, believes, recalls, describes, critiques, declares, contends, writes, notes, and proposes. Using ellipses and square brackets. There are a couple of other ways to edit quotes to make them fit within your analytical sentence more smoothly. You can use ellipses to omit information or square brackets to add information. Ellipses. If you want to quote some parts of a longer sentence, use an ellipsis to take out the less important parts. E.g., I thought about all the kids around the world. I wanted them to know they weren't alone. Square brackets. If you need to add information into a quotation or change a small part of the quotation, shift verb tense or change pronoun to name, etc., use square brackets. E.g., he thought about all the kids around the world who were experiencing the same feelings. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any topics you'd like us to cover in future videos, please let us know in the comments below.